Over Waitangi Weekend, a group of convoy protesters who are protesting everything from mandates to vaccines to 1080 and Three Waters descended upon Parliament after touring up and down the country to meet in the middle, and to be honest, it's the most stupid protest ever. So let's start with the basics on this one, because they're really basic. These protesters are up in arms about what they're considering impingements on their freedoms, which includes mandates to keep people safe, lockdowns, which we're not going to have any more of, and the return or the upholding of the 1688 Bill of Rights Act, which is something that most Westminster parliaments are built on, which means that governments can't change laws without basically getting it run by Parliament and changed that way instead of just unilaterally doing what they want to do. And this is where it gets kind of screwy. Essentially what they're saying is, we don't like the public health response designed to keep people safe. Things like seatbelts and helmets are also public health responses designed to keep people safe. But they don't like being told what to do. Lockdowns there aren't going to be any more of because we have a system in place to stop that from happening. And the 1688 law that allows for these things that they're arguing against or saying isn't happening, that's actually not something that's a problem at the moment. The laws that have been put in place to change how we do things and deal with these public health changes, they've all been run through Parliament the way that they're supposed to be. No Prime Minister has made a unilateral decision since Robert Muldoon's time, and he got pinged for it back then under that Bill of Rights Act that they're arguing about. So they're basically full of crap. But the thing about this protest that really gets me, which is so funny and at the same time so very sad, it's poorly organised and it feels like it's been run by a bunch of entitled twats who have no idea just what it's like to feel as though they're a minority. And that's a shame, because in an ideal world, nobody who sees themselves as a minority group should feel like they are left out or discriminated against. But the fact that these people feel that this is what a minority goes through means that they have no idea themselves what a minority actually goes through. And there are some really great examples throughout this whole protest of just how poorly organised it's been. Right from the start, they didn't know which social media apps that they were going to be using, so there were mixed messages coming out from everywhere about what exactly was going on for the people that were involved with this. A lot of these groups can't be on places like Facebook because they get taken down for misinformation super fast. Which, it's Facebook. That's kind of surprising. You have to be really bad to be knocked off there. They did stupid things like an open Spotify playlist, which allowed people to go in and edit and add songs. So of course people are going to go in and troll them with songs like Get a Real Job and redneck hillbilly type music to make fun of the people who are doing something really absolutely ridiculous. They are known for not having organised things particularly well when it came to travel across the Cook Strait, with a whole bunch of people from the convoy in the South Island showing up to Picton, not realising that you need a vaccine pass or a test to get across 72 hours beforehand. Most of them had just sort of assumed they'd get there and be able to travel in the rest of their convoy, and they actually put a call out for boats to give them a hand out there. It ended up with the hashtag Dumbkirk, because it was such a stupid idea. And then even today, which is the Tuesday of the protest itself, there's reports coming through that they've accidentally got themselves separated and gone off in different directions because they can't follow what is one of the simplest roads in the country to follow, State Highway 1, which takes you right into the CBD of Wellington. There's even reports now of them blocking up streets to try and basically jam up Wellington Central, and that's just a shitty thing to do. Everything that they are protesting is pointless, and they'll sit there and say things like, this isn't an anti-vax protest, but for a majority of people that are going to this, that's exactly what it is. And when you see signs everywhere for the Voices of Freedom, who are a grifting organisation set up by a couple of racists going out of their way to make money off this whole thing, it gets really frustrating. But for me, I think the most frustrating part is the media coverage that they get for acting like fucking idiots, but also that there is actually a whole list of things that you could legitimately complain about with this government that might be worth protesting more than mandates and lockdowns that don't affect you or only affect you because that's a choice that you have made. Look, if you want to protest the government about things that aren't fair or aren't right, then you absolutely have grounds to do so. Mandates and freedom are not the sort of things that you have the right to protest about because you chose to be in this circumstance. But if you want a list of things to complain about, I can actually help you out with that. I have a list right here. You could complain about the fact that there has been almost no drug reform, despite the fact 50% of the country voted for it at the last election. You could complain about WIN's payment levels being well below the rate needed for people to survive in any sort of dignity. You could talk about the fact that there's no capital gains tax, which most of the world has, and we don't because for some reason rich people get really loud and grumpy about it, so governments don't touch it. How about the fact that you can't even buy poppers over the counter because the government somehow made it illegal to do so? You now have to either go see a doctor or sneak it in from overseas. What about the fact that the vaccine rollout was incredibly inequitable for Māori and Pacific Islanders, especially in South Auckland? And that is really problematic, as that is a vulnerable group already because they're being targeted specifically by these anti-vax groups who are racist, never a good mix, and also that's where our main borders are to get in and out of the country. They're the most at-risk part of the entire city. There's plenty for you to complain about, but complaining about the fact that you were told this is your choice and you chose one that gave you these consequences, that's not a reason to clog up an entire city, to act like assholes, and to show off just how stupid you actually look to the rest of the world. You know, I think that's me. I'm done. I've had a relatively good morning so far, and I don't want to go and ruin it by dealing with idiots like this on a regular basis. If you want to go out and protest things like freedom and mandates, not even knowing exactly what it is that you're protesting, go for it. Make yourself look like an idiot, because it was Abe Lincoln who pointed out that it is better for people to think you a fool than to open your mouth and prove it. And that's exactly what you're doing. All right. Well, I'm going to go off and get my third vaccine because I can. Catch you later. Ka kite anō.